They slapped handcuffs on me right in my own driveway. 6:30 in the morning, sky barely pink, cold enough you can see your breath. I was just grabbing my lunchbox, about to hit the road for a job. 2 squad cars lit up the frost, red and blue flashing over my old Ford, diesel smoke curling up from the tailpipe. My coffee was still steaming on the porch rail. I stood there, boots crunching over the frozen grass, wrists zip-tied together, feeling like the punchline of a bad joke. And of course Bethany, my neighbor in her pink fuzzy bathrobe, iPhone pointed at my face, voice shrill enough to wake the dead. "He's trespassing on HOA property. Arrest him." The cops looked at each other, totally baffled. The real kicker? I'm not even in her HOA. That's why I bought this place, to get the hell away from people exactly like her. Yeah, you heard me. I moved to Colorado, out here where you can actually breathe, just a scruffy, 45-year-old divorced electrician, hoping for a little quiet and maybe some peace. I scraped together what was left after my ex took half in the divorce, bought this old farmhouse with 2 acres of freedom, or so I thought. The kitchen? Reagan-era beige, cabinets creaky as a haunted house. Fence looked like a tornado had taken a bite out of it, but it was mine. No rules. No fines. No Karens with clipboards measuring the height of my grass. Or so I thought. The first time I met Bethany, she rolled up in a white Escalade at 9 a.m., license plate blessed by the Lord himself, makeup thick enough for a Vegas showgirl, clicking down my gravel driveway in heels. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she says, smiling like someone who practiced in the mirror. "I'm Bethany, HOA president. We need to discuss community standards." I almost laughed. I set down my hedge trimmer, bark chips stuck to my gloves. "Thanks, but I'm not in your HOA." Her smile twitched, but she powered through. "Well, yes, but your choices affect our property values." She fanned out a stack of laminated complaints. Laminated, mind you, like she expected me to keep them for future reference. "This overgrown hedge is unsightly, and that truck," she jabbed a finger at my '87 Ford, "is not appropriate for our area." I looked at her deadpan. "Lady, you have zero authority here. I bought this place to get away from all that HOA garbage." That's when her mask slipped, just a bit. She dropped her welcome voice. "I'll be watching your property for the community's sake." As she strutted back, she paused at my mailbox and snapped photos, address, truck, even the flower beds. Then she called someone right there, loud enough for me to hear. "Yes, I'd like to file a county complaint about unsafe vehicle storage and possible health violations." Diesel exhaust, cheap perfume, and the promise of misery, she drove off, wheels spinning. That night, I found tire tracks all over my freshly planted marigolds. 3 weeks of work flattened into mud. Didn't take a genius to figure out who'd been joyriding through my flower bed. And then 2 days later, it showed up, a certified letter from the Willowbrook Estates Community Standards Board. Remedy multiple violations within 72 hours or face escalating enforcement actions. The kicker? Every single violation was on my side of the property line, property she had no legal claim to. I called the number. Disconnected. Checked the address. Just a mailbox at the UPS store. Bethany had created a fake authority, just to try to scare me. But here's the thing. 23 years as an electrician teaches you how systems work. Electric, legal, and human. You can flip the whole thing upside down if you know where the wires run. 3 days after her fake letter, Bethany kicked off the great driveway dispute of 2024. She marched over with a measuring tape, a clipboard, and a scrawny consultant who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Your gravel driveway extends 3 feet onto HOA buffer zone property," she announced, unfurling what looked like a child's crayon drawing pretending to be a survey map. She planted orange flags along her boundary, like she was raising the flag at Iwo Jima. I couldn't help but laugh. "Lady, you can't just make up property lines." She held up some papers. "I have county records proving your encroachment," but I could see the Zillow logo through the paper. That night, her white Escalade parked across my driveway, not blocking me outright, just forcing me to squeeze past. Subtle, right? Like death by 1,000 little inconveniences. But she didn't know me. I've been through a divorce. I've dealt with building inspectors. I know one golden rule. Documentation beats bluster every time. Next morning, I went straight to the county clerk, dropped $200 for the official survey from 1987. You ever smell old paper and burnt coffee in a government office at 8 a.m.? I spread the papers out, heart pounding. My property line? It didn't end where my driveway stopped. It went 5 feet past, right into what Bethany thought was her HOA's buffer zone. The jackpot, though, was in my own basement, boxes from the old owner, including a fat folder. HOA Legal Battle 1987-89. Turns out, Bethany's predecessor had tried this same trick 37 years ago, and lost spectacularly. 15 grand in legal fees, permanent court order, the whole 9 yards. Armed with all this, I called in the real surveyor, the county, even my insurance company's legal hotline. Within a week, GPS survey stakes marked my true property line, 8 feet past my current driveway. My mailman Carlos fist bumped me. "Dude, you're my hero." She tried to fine me $50 for parking on the wrong side of her street. I told her, "Lady, I work for the federal government. Your HOA can kiss my USPS uniform." Turns out, Bethany had been terrorizing the county for years, filing complaints, inventing authority, intimidating anyone she thought couldn't fight back. Until she met me. But the minute she realized I wouldn't roll over, she escalated. I came home one day to find my security camera knocked sideways and fresh tire tracks spinning donuts in my lawn. Deliberate, not accidental. But I'm an electrician who installs security systems for a living. My backup cameras caught her Escalade in glorious 1080p, license plate sharp as a razor at 2:17 a.m. Next morning, the cops showed up. "Sir, we've received complaints you've been photographing a neighbor's property and making threats." I showed them the video. Their faces said it all. Someone had wasted their time. They called over to Bethany's house, told her filing false reports is a misdemeanor. Her door slammed so hard it rattled the windows. Round 1, Jake. Bethany's next move? 6 violation notices crammed in my mailbox. All filed within 2 hours. Unlicensed electrical work. I've got enough certifications to wallpaper my bathroom. Junk vehicle storage. My classic Ford restoration project. Unsafe chicken coop. Not even finished yet. But the county digital system logs everything. Same IP address, same computer, same morning, same desperate woman. I called Maria Santos, the county inspector. She walked through my property, praised my craftsmanship, and rolled her eyes at the paperwork. 73% of all complaints in our district come from Bethany Morrison, she said, showing me her tablet. Abusive complaint systems? That's a separate violation. Word got out that someone was finally standing up to Bethany. Buck, the rancher next door, brought a 6-pack and 40 years of stories about her trying to fine him for his aesthetically incompatible barn. Mrs. Juliet, cookies in hand, told me Bethany once called animal control on her rescue horses. Even Tom the FedEx guy had a run-in. She blocked his truck for parking where she could see it from her kitchen. Bethany targeted blue-collar folks, the elderly, anyone she thought couldn't fight back. And now, the neighborhood was waking up. Then, I got a text from an unknown number. "Your inspector's stunt won't work. I have connections beyond your imagination. Drop this or face real consequences." I forwarded it to Officer Rodriguez. "That's electronic harassment, a felony. Save everything." And then, here's the twist, the part one never saw coming. Bethany called me. Sweet as honey, panic barely contained. "Mr. Jake, there's been a terrible misunderstanding about those violation notices. Perhaps we could discuss this like reasonable neighbors." Suddenly, the queen of complaints wanted to negotiate. She invited me over, coffee and an offer. I walked into her house. It was like stepping into a museum of beige. She slid a fat envelope across the granite countertop. 3 grand in hundreds. "For your inconvenience," she said, voice trembling, "you might consider selling. I have contacts who could get you above market value." That's when it clicked. This was extortion, not negotiation. If I didn't take her offer, she'd weaponize the system to ruin my business. Lucky for me, my phone had been recording since the doorbell. "Fascinating offer, Bethany," I said, holding my phone up. "So if I don't sell, you'll destroy my business?" She paled. "You're misinterpreting," playback. Her own voice, clear as day. But while she was panicking about the recording, I spotted a stack of red-stamped mail, IRS, State Attorney General, VA fraud investigation. And here's the bombshell. She hadn't been HOA president for 8 months. The board had voted her out for financial irregularities. She just never left, kept collecting dues, issuing fines, cashing checks only she could access. That night, everything changed. I called Linda Juliet, the real treasurer. "She's been stealing HOA money," Linda said. "We just needed proof." The puzzle pieces were falling together. And then, I found out about the VA loan fraud. Bethany had never served a day in uniform, but she'd forged records to get a veteran's mortgage. The house she used as headquarters for her suburban reign of terror, built on federal fraud. 2 decades in prison territory. So, what do you do with a neighbor who's not just a bully but a criminal? You gather the community, document everything, and get a little creative. That's where the real fun began. I rigged my property with a motion-activated sprinkler system, PVC sensors, the works. Anyone crossed my legal boundary, they'd get a high-pressure shower. Legal, effective, and deeply satisfying. Linda gathered bank statements, Buck provided surveillance cameras, Carlos flagged postal violations, and even Maria the inspector played along, timing her routine compliance review for the weekend of our big event. Then we planned the ultimate HOA barbecue, property line education, with neighbors, local officials, and a few folks from the media. Bethany tried everything to sabotage it. She hired fake federal agents, made phony phone calls to cancel the event, and finally, in full view of 50 neighbors, tried to destroy my survey stakes at 2 in the morning, only to be blasted by my sprinklers and land face first in my flower bed. The next morning, she showed up at my door, suitcases in her Escalade, offered me 20 grand to resolve our misunderstandings. When I refused, she threatened my license and my business. I hit record, she realized, and she snapped, screamed so loud the neighbors came outside. Linda caught her confession on video. The real federal agents rolled up, just as Bethany's hired goons tried to arrest the county inspector. And then, poetic justice. The sprinklers got her again, in front of the entire neighborhood. She tried to run, slipped, landed in the mud, and was cuffed while the crowd cheered. Bethany Morrison went down in spectacular fashion, arrested for fraud, embezzlement, impersonating federal officers, you name it. Her house was auctioned to pay restitution, and she got 18 months in federal prison, plus community service at actual veteran centers. But here's the thing, it wasn't just about beating Bethany. The best part, what came after? The neighborhood, freed from her tyranny, started meeting for monthly barbecues. People looked out for each other instead of spying. I started installing my boundary protection systems all over Colorado. And we created the Good Neighbor Scholarship Fund, helping local kids train for real jobs, learning skills to build communities, not tear them down. Sometimes I sit on my porch with Maria, coffee in hand, mountain air sharp, sunrise spilling gold across the valley. And I realize, the real lesson here isn't about beating the system, or even out-lawyering the bullies. It's about building something better. About knowing the rules so you can protect what's right, and about standing up for yourself, but never becoming the monster you're fighting. Funny thing, people like Bethany? They only win as long as nobody knows the rules better than they do. They count on you getting angry and making mistakes. I could have lost it that first morning, when she called the cops on me for standing in my own driveway. But I just kept my head, documented everything, and let the truth do its work. So here's my question for you. Where's the line between justice and revenge? If you've ever tangled with a petty tyrant, what did you do? Did you fight back or walk away? Share your story in the comments. Hell, tell me your worst HOA horror story. Because sometimes the best payback isn't just karma, it's community. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of cold well water. If you found this story worth hearing, hit that like button, subscribe, and join the conversation. There's a lot more where this came from. And who knows? Maybe your tale will be the next one we all cheer for.